And just like that, I am back. Welcome to tonight's podcast with your girl, Dina. I will be your host tonight as we journey through another night, right? So, you already know what it is. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so at this time. What are you waiting on? Like, what is it? So, if you have been with me this week, you already know we started a mini series on this week, right? And we are in what I call the waiting period. So you already know what it is about the previous few nights that we have been live. But guess what? You're gonna have to go back and watch the videos, okay? So the first night we talked about how do we get in the waiting period? What does the waiting period look like? What is the waiting period to get into your kingdom spouse? And we broke that down 2 days, right? Now I'm just gonna tell you the days, and you have to go back and see it for yourself. Hi, Misunderstood. Welcome to my channel. Hope you are here to get your little encouragement, get your little motivation to push you on through the waiting period. Okay. So the first thing we talked about this week is growth. And the first day, the growth that we talked about was spiritual growth. And the next day, we talked about personal growth. So, if you have not watched those videos, I encourage you to go back and watch those two videos and the previous ones, which will show you how we got here in the waiting period, right? So, tonight, I have for you, we're going to talk about just a little bit of relational growth, okay? So, what is relational growth, right? So, I already got my little notes, right? So, relational growth happens to be not just romantic, but in friendships, family, and community. These connections can sharpen your character, teach you patience, and remind you that love is abundant even before marriage. Did y'all hear that word I said? Patience. If you ain't got patience now, baby, you're going to need a whole lot of patience when you get out the waiting period, okay? Um, and like I said, you can start it in friendships, family, everybody, every relationship that we enter into has to have patience. We got to be patient with the people. And sometimes patience is, it's a process, especially when, you coming from like being to yourself by yourself, and then you're talking about going to a marriage and being patient with someone is different than you being home by yourself and then you actually in a space with somebody. So we have to learn these things while we in the waiting period. And honey, I be role playing my own self like if somebody is here listening. I try because I know I got a lot of work to do, right? So it says also that most beautifully, the waiting season can deepen your contentment, not the passive kind, but the kind that says, even if I don't have what I want yet, I'm still whole, I'm still worthy, and I'm still walking in purpose. Because that's the point, right? We already talked about it's two purposes, your purpose, their purpose, and God's bringing you two together for a purpose, right? So we already know that that's a given, right? So we are working on those things. So some little things that I picked up about, how do we work on the relational part of while we in the waiting period. And one of the things was to deepen your self-awareness, like understanding your emotional patterns, your communication style, and your attachment tendencies. It helps you show up more whole in your future relationship, right? So I'm gonna go back and break it down. Emotional patterns, now, I don't know about y'all men, but about us women, we have those time periods in those months that we have that, you can tell your attitude coming on a real strong. And when it said to understand your emotional patterns. So I feel like in those times, we have to learn how to dial it back. And, your emotions be kind of all over the place. They be a little rated sometimes because, baby, listen, you have to get that phone and baby, what the day is? Okay. I understand why I'm getting emotional, why I got an attitude. Let me be intentional on how I react. Let me sit here and think about for a minute what I want to say, that it ain't gonna just come off where I'm finna bite his head. Okay. We have to be very intentional on that. And one of the things that I have really done during this journey is praying and asking God to let me not react out of my emotions. Because, like I said before, when we act out of our emotions, you can only say sorry so many times, and then sorry just goes out of the window, right? So I pray really hard in situations to not let me act out of my emotions, because once you put it out there, you can say sorry, but you can't take it back. So let's try to, work on it on ourselves, because I know that's a daily struggle for me. Because it's easy to, but it takes more patience to say, now what should I say in this instance? God, give me what to say. Please don't let me act out of my emotions. Take a deep breath. Let me think about this, and then I'm gonna react. Okay. Then it says your communication style. Now, we as women sometimes we be forgetting who we be talking to sometimes, and certain type of men I can just let you talk to them in any kind of way, right? So we have somehow picked up some kind of bad pattern sometimes, where we like to talk to people as if they're our kids, or as if they're not grown like we're grown. But we know that's not the case, right? So we just have to be more aware of how we are communicating with other people, right? So that's something that we can work on daily. You can even practice in the mirror. If somebody say something, now you're not gonna say it that way. Let me say it this way. Let me see how that sounds. Okay, let me do that. Okay, that's working on your communication style, and it's a part of your relational growth with yourself, right? Then it says if you have any attachment tendencies. Sometimes people are really clingy, but we try not to be clingy in this season, right? We're gonna try to be happy and whole, and we see you, and we don't. We all right with it. We won't be clingy, right? And so the next one was practice the relationship that you want. You know what you want, so practice it. Cultivate, like we said, patience, empathy, forgiveness, healthy boundaries in your friendships, family dynamics, and relating to yourself. And I'm gonna add an extra one in there, extending grace, because we still got the patience in here. And the empathy for me, I learned empathy through some ways that I never felt before. Like, I've heard of empathy, but to actually see it and feel it, and it was crazy because um I was talking to a friend. I think she was in my house, and she was having some issues going on in her marriage or whatever. And she started just crying and saying what was going on. And so I instantly started to pray for her. And I prayed before I said something to her, that God gave me what to say to her at this moment. Because now, mind you, she's married. I'm not married. So I'm going to be very, very cautious and careful about what I'm going to give you, because I want it to come directly from God, right? So I prayed while she cried. And then I gave her what God told me to give her. And it was so crazy, because the very next day when I was watching Pastor Brunner, he was saying God will give you empathy for people to be in leadership. There is nothing like you being in a position where you have been, where other people have been, and you can empathize with them, not telling them something that they think or you think, but something that you've actually been through. So we need to kind of be intentional on, when you are talking to somebody, if you have been some of the things through the things that they have been through, to kind of empathize with them, help them out a little bit, because you went through that same thing. So it's your duty to help them, give them your experience, and help push them on through. Okay. That's what empathy is. I'm empathizing with you. I can feel your pain. And guess what? After I listened to that man and did it that day, I had the same situation happen with it was another type, but it was the same situation. And the same words that I gave her, guess what God told me? Now give yourself those same words. And I was like, oh my God. And I felt like, oh, it backfired, but it really didn't backfire. It was just God saying, okay, take your own advice, help her, let her know how did you go through it, okay? So that's what I did. And another thing it says is forgiveness. Like we have to get to a place in ourselves and especially relational where we forgive people. I hate for somebody to say, well, if I made you feel some type of way. No, if I told you you made me feel some type of way, it's not an if. So give me an apology and saying, well, I apologize that I made you feel this way or whatever. And that's it. It's no if and buts about it. But we have to learn to extend grace and forgiveness. And I remember one day I was like, when God was teaching me to extend grace, I was like, so I don't want to do that. And he said, who are you not to extend grace to people when I extend grace to you every day? Ooh, I said, ooh, they hit me. They hit me right up in here. And I started thinking about it. We get grace in everything. Even your car note people give you a 7-day grace period. Every bill you get, they give you a grace period to get it done. So who are we not to give people grace? Because God gives us grace every day. So extend that same grace to somebody else and not just cut them off. Because I told you before, I was the type of person to hold a grudge. And once I'm done, I'm done. There's no coming back from that. I don't wish you no hard feelings. I don't wish you no harm. But that's dead to me and I'm moving on. I'm not coming back from it. But thank the Lord that my life has been changed. And I take it for what it is and I move on. And the Bible says to make sure that you handle everything with clean hands and a pure heart. So that is my desire in every relationship that I have, right? Hey, Kay, how are you tonight? Thanks for joining the channel. So the next one we have is grow in faith and purpose. Like there are so many ways that God stretches us and have us to grow in faith that it's a continued learning behavior in your relationals, right? With yourself, with family, with a spouse, in a marriage, in a relationship, all of it, right? But it says if your waiting season is rooted in faith, this is a powerful time to deepen your spiritual intimacy. Let your relationship with God be the foundation that steadies you and shapes you in the expectations of love. Because who better to teach you about love than God, right? Nobody. So just keep that in mind while you're in your waiting season. That continue to let God stretch your faith. And no matter what it looks like, know that what God said is going to happen, okay? So though the waiting period gets hard, sometimes you get a little weary. You have your moments and then you come back because it's all working for your good, right? And I got one more for you, and then I got a couple more things, okay? So the last one it has is to serve and build community. I am big on serving. So I listened to Pastor Torrey and his wife Sarah one night when I first started listening to him, right? And she said when she met him, he told her, "How can I serve you?" She said, "I don't know what that means, but that sounds real good." I was like, "Oh my!" So you already know what it means to serve, right? So like they always use the thing when you at a restaurant and you waiting on your food. What do? They serve. The waiters, they serve. So you serve in your community. You serve your church, your family, whoever it is you serve, because in a marriage, the man serves the wife and the wife serves the man. Okay. So you get in the habit of that now serving other people so that it will be easier transition for you when you get in that position, right? So it says relational growth isn't just about romance, it's about connection. Pour into your community, mentor others, or serve in ways that stretch your heart. These experiences often prepare you for the selflessness marriage requires, because we do know that they always say if you want to be selfish, then you should not get married, okay? Because marriage is two selfless people. Okay. Then it says, well, so I took it, my example of when they say pour into your community. So I do these things called date night experiences. I've done a couple of them with one of my clients who does things for her husband, but they always do things as a couple. So that's her thing. I understand. So when she asked me to come and do a party for her, I always make sure that I create it around a date night because that's the couples that they vibe with. And so I want to keep it like that. We're going to have a little fun, but we're going to be very intentional on what we are doing because I feel like marriage is sacred, right? So a lot of things that I put together for couples, date nights, parties, I pray and ask God to give me something. Like I said, because I want to be very intentional. So I go all out. I read. I get my little cards. I make sure they have a good time. They interacting with each other because I want to set the mood for you. I want to help you have a good night on the town with your spouse. And because guess what? When you get home tonight, y'all ain't gonna worry about everything that happened late earlier that day. You gonna came home on a good night. So I might have y'all feathers a little ruffled in the beginning, but at night I'm at the end I'm gonna take it on in, right? So the last one I did, I came up with the idea to I made centerpieces with real roses, right? And so what I did was at the end, I took the men to the back. And the man was like, "Oh Lord, you setting us up." I'm like, "Nah, I'm setting y'all up for a good night, okay?" So I took the roses and I wrapped them in paper and I gave each man two roses. I think it was like it was like 14 couples. So I gave them the roses. I lined them all up. I had the wives stand up. And when the men came in, I told them that tonight your husband is going to serenade you, right? So the men went to their wife or they were engaged. And we played the song Chrisette Michelle, A Couple of Forevers. I told them for the next 3 minutes, you are going to esteem your spouse, right? Whatever it is that you want to say to them, you have 3 minutes. They were eye to eye, and it was beautiful. They gave them the roses, and I told them that the white rose stood for friendship, and the red was for love. Every marriage should have love and friendship. Okay, baby, it was a good night. When they got done, they had a good time. Okay, so that is one of my favorite things to do for serving. I love to serve the couples. I love to make their night amazing. I love to help pour into marriages because I feel like marriage has been under attack for a long time. So anything that I can do to pour into it and to serve the couples is what I love to do, right? So the last thing I have for you now is one thing I had called a feedback loop. So while we are in this week of relational growth on tonight, do me a favor. Do a feedback loop with one of your closest friends, right? So it says, call one of your closest friends or your mentor, somebody that you trust very well, and ask them these two questions, right? So I called my best friend because ain't nobody gonna be more honest than her, right? So the first question I asked her was, what is one thing that she thinks that I do well in relationships, right? Female or male, but I was going on to males, but she said that it would go for both, right? And she said that I was loyal in a relationship, whether it's a female or a male, I am very loyal. And I said that on last night. I am loyal to a fault because that's just who I am. And I sometimes I get messed up in there because everybody is not loyal to you like you are to them. And I'm learning to be okay with it and kind of dial it back some. But I am who I am. I can't help that. But I can learn to create some boundaries of it, but I'm loyal. Like if I'm for you, I'm for you. I ain't got no hatreds against you. I want to talk. I want to make it work. Whatever it is, I'm just loyal to a fault. And one of my downsides about that is I feel like everybody should be that way, but they're not. Or everybody would extend to you the same grace that you give them, but they don't. But that's okay because I'm going to be who I am and I'm going to continue to be loyal, okay? And so the next question I asked is, what is one area that I can grow in? And she told me that I need to learn how to scale back on my time. Like I do a lot of stuff. She says I never can stay at home. I'm always going. If somebody called me and say, hey, they got a plate, or hey, they want to go out to eat, or hey, whatever it is, I'm going, 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 going. And I told her that's because I am a people person. I am a social butterfly. I love to be outside. When I'm in the house for too long, I feel like I am maybe sliding into a little season that I don't want to go in. I'm not gonna say depression. I just feel a little down, right? Because I'm used to being outside in the house. But I am learning to scale back as life changes, and try to do more things around the house, which kind of drives me crazy. But I'm learning to just go with the flow and not have to always go, if that makes sense, right? So that is something that I will have to work on, and I am continuing to work on it because, I'm getting a little older, so it ain't gonna always be like it used to be, right? So what they say, if you don't sit down, the Lord will sit you down, right? So that's all I got for you tonight. So my two questions that I want you to call and ask your friend, and I want you to come back and drop it in the chat and let me know what they said about you, okay? The first question is, what is one thing do they think that you do well in a relationship? And the second thing is, what is one area that you can grow in, okay? So when you come back, drop it in the chat for me, and we'll chop it up tomorrow as we do the recap on this week's podcast of growth, right? Growth while in the waiting period. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching the replay. Drop down in the comments and let me know what you think. And until tomorrow night, have a good one.